Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Susan Kennedy Nur Al-Din, and today I'm going to talk to you about a lesser known contribution of Julian Assange, the Australian journalist and publisher of WikiLeaks. Intellectuals Noam Chomsky, John Pilger and Sarah Flounders have urged us to share the benefits of Julian's work with a broader audience for the purpose of promoting peace and reducing the chilling effect of secrecy that is now experienced by everyday people, but especially those who work in the fields of journalism and knowledge development. This is my response to that call for Julian to support him in relation to my own academic work in the Middle East. Sarah Flounders has said that human consciousness is more powerful in terms of historical change than repression or the ability of technology to enforce repression. Human consciousness breaks through oppression in unexpected ways. We have to really think how we can help that information that we already have to break through again and again and again. In this video, I will be telling you about some of the WikiLeaks US Embassy cables. In 2010, WikiLeaks released Cablegate, US Embassy cables containing 44 years of messages from the US State Department issued by a variety of embassies around the world. Two cables of special significance to my research on the case of ethnic cleansing of the stateless Kuwaiti Bedouins called Bedoon are the subject of this video. The cables are communications issued by the US Embassy in Kuwait in 2003 and 2006. They demonstrate that the government of the United States and all states in the Gulf Cooperation Council had been aware of the ongoing identity theft of the Kuwaiti Bedoon conducted by the state of Kuwait for around 20 years or more. Unfortunately, the ethnic cleansing continues until the present day because this tragedy remains suppressed by the international community, including the United Nations, Western countries, including Australia, the international humanitarian organisations, Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International, and academic scholars in Middle East studies and the social sciences and studies of statelessness worldwide. But first, because the audience watching my channel is a global audience and it will include Bedoons from Kuwait and Bedouins of the Arabian Gulf, I will first introduce some of the better known contributions of Julian to global truth-telling. The Edward Snowden case. Julian Assange is probably best known for helping Edward Snowden, an American national security contractor, to distribute classified information on wholesale spying of all Americans and practically everyone on Earth. This included revelations of spying on Germany's political leader, Angela Merkel. The nature of spying was the most compelling aspect of this case. Through Snowden and Assange, we found that information communicated by millions of people was captured by the US government, whether it was of relevance or importance to national security or not. The approach showed that the American state had become the biggest spy on Earth. Not only that, Julian also helped Edward Snowden gain asylum in the Soviet Union after he was pursued by American authorities. The Chelsea Manning case. Julian Assange also helped Chelsea Manning release American data on classified military activities, mostly taking place in Iraq and Afghanistan. The data included video footage from American military operations, leaks containing information of crimes against humanity committed against civilians. A US Army attack on Iraqi civilians and Reuters journalists over Baghdad in 2007 is among the most famous of the leaks. Video footage of the attack being committed from an Apache helicopter, similar to the one portrayed in the Hollywood film The Hurt Locker, showed that the soldiers carrying out the assassinations were laughing at their victims while killing them. This was called the Iraq Collateral Murder video. It is remembered for its recount of military personnel losing all sense of their humanity and intentionally assassinating innocent victims who should have been protected from attack according to international rules on the conduct of war that were once respected by the international community. Chelsea Manning was eventually freed due to popular outrage at the American government's disproportionate sentencing in response to Chelsea's release of information on these grave war crimes. Claims her data would endanger more people than it would help were exaggerated and never proven. There has been no indication that the release of Manning's data has ever caused harm to anyone. Chelsea Manning converted her gender after she was arrested, which is why you will see pictures of her as a male when she was still called by her birth name, Bradley Manning. Later, pictures of her as a female were released after she took up the name Chelsea. I'm explaining this for my Bedoon audience who may not be familiar with the concept of gender transition. Chelsea was recently sent back to jail by US authorities after she refused to give testimony incriminating Julian Assange to a secret grand jury. In other words, she has been incarcerated for defending Julian from further prosecution carried out secretly in the United States. It is not yet known when she will be released. The Kuwaiti Bedoon case. We now turn to the purpose of this video, which is to tell you about one of the lesser known issues related to the US Embassy cables released by WikiLeaks, which contributes to case building regarding Kuwaiti crimes against humanity. These involve the US Embassy cables from Kuwait, a tiny oil-rich country located in the Arabian Gulf. These cables are part of what is called the Public Library of US Diplomacy on the WikiLeaks website. These cables did not necessarily reveal crimes against humanity directly. However, the Kuwait Embassy cables stand out because they show how crimes against humanity committed by the state of Kuwait were carried out against its own people using the method of administrative ethnic cleansing, also known as erasure. Erasure is equivalent to identity theft. In the case of the Bedoon, both their ethnic and national identities have been stolen, and in some cases, individual and family identity has also been stolen by the state of Kuwait. For example, some people have even lost their surnames according to the policy acknowledged by the state itself in 2012. The Kuwaiti Bedoon are Bedouins of Kuwait's northern tribes. They also include some portion of other minority groups, but together they form one emerging ethnic group. They live in a state of severe oppression, similar to Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank, and the blacks of South Africa under the former regime of apartheid. They have been subject to administrative expulsion, violent ethnic cleansing, and erasure or identity theft, which is sometimes used to wipe out the existence of stateless populations. Ironically, the Kuwaiti Emir's own tribal confederation, the Al-Anisa, is one of the largest sources of stateless Bedoons in Kuwait because the merchant elite class withheld citizenship from them during the 1960s while granting their own ethnic groups citizenship. This pattern continues until today, to the extent that most Kuwaiti citizens have been present in Kuwait for a far shorter time than the Bedoons, who comprise some of the oldest Kuwaiti families and tribes in Kuwait. Work of Julian Assange's WikiLeaks has been essential to our understanding that international actors are aware and involved in the suppression of information about the Bedoon erasure. The first cable I discuss in this video, number 3590A of August 2003, revealed the Kuwait government policy towards the Bedoon, accused the group of lying about their nationality, and then admitting that they had lied about their nationality. It also accused the group of forging identity documents and lying in general. This defies the fact that most of the group were illiterate when the government formed the policy. The strategy relies on a shame-based culture used to humiliate the Bedoon into psychological oppression, and the policy is known to have existed since at least 1986. However, attempts to ensure that the Kuwaiti Bedouin would be deprived of citizenship began in 1960, before the state had gained its independence from the United Kingdom. The Bedoon were forced to sign so-called affidavit documents, which were basically pre-prepared pro formas admitting their nationality in return for access to simple public resources after the group were expelled by the state in 1986. We know the program was one of erasure due to the previous evidence provided in 1989 by Rashid Al-Anisi, a Kuwait international law expert who later joined the government of Kuwait to advise on international law, solidifying the state's stance on the Bedoon erasure. Rashid Al-Anisi found government had simply written the names of other countries on identity documents the state issued to the Bedoons from 1983, based on a secret order. Al-Anisi also found that government had issued letters to all Bedoons who worked in the government service, asking them to supply government with foreign passports of other countries, though it knew the Bedoon was stateless. The state of Kuwait admitted that this was their policy in 2011. The nationalities chosen were based on secret investigations, of which no evidence has ever been released by the state of Kuwait since 1983. This data also coincided with a Human Rights Watch report in 2000 that described an unknown number of Bedoons being forced to sign so-called affidavits admitting they had nationalities in other countries. But prior to these events, the state of Kuwait had issued Kuwaiti passports to all members of its military services. And these men appear to be the same men that the state subsequently attempted to traffic with fraudulent foreign passports. There are more details to this aspect of the Bedoon case beyond the scope of this present message, which can be found in my academic work online.